Welcome to the Family Office, planning for the people who matter most.
Uninterrupted, right? Uninterrupted.
Mm-hmm.
Always good. Well, coming off of, I think probably the one of the most wild Novembers I can remember. Market conditions, the way they were, political things going on, the Epstein stuff. I mean, Mandami, the elections. I mean, peace, war and peace. There's just so much going on. And just when you think it's going to start cooling off, I don't even think we're talking about this today, but I have to bring it up because it just came across to me this morning, and I read about it briefly last week, but U.S. is declaring that airspace is closed over Venezuela or something to that effect. And they have encouraged Maduro to leave, like they're giving him a chance to leave now or face death or capture. Like the word on the street is capture or kill. And they're giving him a chance to get out alive, him, his wife, and his son or something to that effect. Wow. And there's going to be some type of ground. China is not wanting to stop that. They're not against it. Russia's not in play anymore there. Iran's not in play in there. There's a lot going on there. I know we're not looking at that, but I just thought it'd be interesting to bring that up right now, considering it's a very important thing that's happening right now in the world right now. What do you think's going on there, Len?
Yeah. So I think when you look at the whole bombing of the boats that are coming in from Venezuela and just all of the controversy around that, because the real concern that I have just with that idea is, one, it's international waters. Two, you're talking about taking action without any type of process. There's no due process. And in fact, I heard of some fishermen that were killed, some Trinidadian fishermen that were in the area who were killed by a drone attack. And so when you look at an act like that, it just seems like in some instances, America takes too much. They try to police the entire world and they bully smaller nations. You know that if those boats were coming from China or coming from Russia, there was no way they'd be able to take that type of action because they have the backing of their country's military. Now, some of those boats may have been filled with people that sell drugs and bring drugs and fentanyl here into the United States. Okay, capture them and either deport them back, or you hold some type of court and give them their due process and give them the right penalties. So when you look at that was almost the excuse to be able to go to Venezuela and say, hey, listen, Maduro, you need to get out or we're going to bomb you and eventually kill you. I just think 1 + 1 in this case equals 3. And I just don't think that the right steps were taken. There's a lack of diplomacy. There's a lack of process. And there's also a disregard for the international rule of law. The ocean is international. And so we all have to abide by the same international rules. And so just because we have military might doesn't give us the right to act unilaterally and just off the cuff to do something like that. I think that's really inhumane.
It's almost kind of, I look at it and I'd be like, okay, I understand those peoples want that. I understand he's not good for that country at all. I mean, considering the state of where it is and where it was.
Absolutely.
Obviously, another example of how dictatorship / communism / socialism / whatever you want to package all that stuff together doesn't work. And we always see it happen time and time again. But I almost feel like it's the same thing. It's like why certain presidents and why Trump wants to get himself involved in. It's almost reminiscent of Obama getting himself in trouble all the time with the drone strikes and the Syria stuff and unauthorized. It's like Obama would self-inflict himself the same way. I feel almost, but obviously he's a different president and he's scrutinized differently. But I almost feel like this is just unnecessary to be doing again. And I understand it's under the guise of, but again, if we're taking the same position and the same attitude that we take at the UN, which is okay, the United States is doing too much. Why are we not all saying, okay, everybody, we understand that Venezuela is in trouble. It's spiraling into crisis. Maduro needs to be removed. We obviously know that. Everyone needs to come together and figure out what we're going to do here to help this country. Because it's going to be a drag on the rest of the world. But instead, we're still asserting some type of imperialistic colonization. And by the way, America's not the only guilty one of doing this. China does it. Is
Sure.
actively doing it.
But we're talking about America and Venezuela in this instance. Yeah.
But in this instance, right, I just want to make sure that we understand that nobody's free of this charge, because that often gets said a lot. Oh, well, America's always the bad guy. No, but it doesn't need to be done. And it's kind of almost like we're creating more geopolitical uncertainty. And I understand the long game that we're trying to play here. But again, why are we creating unnecessarily violent acts? Hey, don't be violent, but then at the same time we're gonna bomb the shit out of people. Great. Hey, I'm okay. Up the Coast Guard and capture these guys up. We don't need, and I understand showing force, but only have to show force in response to force, right? And I understand most people would argue and go, yeah, but we don't even want to give them an opportunity to even fire at us or do any of that stuff. I mean, look, we gotta respond and and if we're immediately opening the door with the forceful stuff like this, again, it just leads to the same old shit. It might fix it now, but 20, 30 years from now, it's going to be the same old thing, because everybody remembers how they were recruited and everybody remembers how they were started. Everyone remembers that. So I think this is one of the instances where I'm like, I can't believe we're going to have another type of proxy shadow conflict / war / all this stuff. And it just irritates me, because as we were driving over back and forth to Louisiana or to New Orleans from Texas, you have to go through Baton Rouge, and the traffic bottlenecks there for an hour. And no matter what time of the day, it always does this. And the reason is because the infrastructure there is from the 50s and the 60s. So then I look at this and I go, oh, great. How much money are we going to spend on this crap versus we could take that money and we could spend it on building 2 or 3 more bridges and updating this one now in America and put more people to work here. And that's what irritates me the most about all of it. I've said it enough now.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. Do you think that the strikes and the justification, because it sounds to me like the justification for those strikes was that there's fentanyl and drugs being trafficked into the United States. And it seems to me like that's a scapegoat to just distract people from all of the real dangers that are really happening here. And I don't know, like, if you think about the Epstein files, I'm sure you heard that Kash Patel is now on the hot seat with the FBI and he may be getting fired. And just all of the Republicans and the GOP that are starting to vacate their positions, all of the domestic challenges that are happening, the lack of approval for the presidency and the GOP and what's going on. I wonder if that's a move, because one thing that Americans are united on is, for the most part, is we don't want drugs coming into our country. We don't want people that are pedophiles harming children. There are a few other things, but you can ask a person, regardless of their party affiliation, their race, ethnicity, religion, gender, all of that stuff. They pretty much fall in line on those 2 issues. So do you think that's just a smokescreen? What do you think is the rationale for taking that action on the part of the Trump administration?
Well, I think that it's a noble cause, or I think it's thought of as to be a noble cause, which is we're going to show force, and we have to show force in certain circumstances. America hasn't shown force in a lot of different ways for a very long time, and that has allowed, say what anybody wants to say, but that allows riffraff to rise up. It does, it really does, and that's just human nature. That's just it's going to happen no matter what. But in doing so, the way we're doing it, it keeps utilizing that, beating that dead horse again, which is, again, we locked everybody up during COVID because it was for your safety. We're going to take these people out and show force because it's for everyone's safety again, because it's the war on drugs again. We're going back to that same old distraction. It's the same thing as climate change. Climate change isn't cool anymore right now. So we're going to we can popularize striking people because it looks cool on social media, because the drone stuff looked cool too. You know, when we were doing the drone stuff in 2008, 2009, oh my God, look at this American supremacy. We don't even have to have human beings fly jets anymore. Now it's like, oh, we don't bomb the crap out of boats and stop the war on drugs that way without putting the Coast Guard out. It's the same thing. We keep justifying spending resources out to gather resources when we should just continually look in and figure out how to work on ourselves from the inside out again, rather than trying to keep bleeding out and use these big noble causes as an excuse to bomb the shit out of somebody. Because look, there are things that we do that people probably don't like, but they're not bombing the shit out of us. Why? Because we have, like you said,
military might.
We can assert power economically, and we can assert power
militarily,
and we can assert power militarily. And if you don't like it, too bad. And
Right.
that's a good thing and a bad thing. But at the end of the day, can we just please just kind of like 80-20 America and just 80% on us and 20% out, and just kind of like read a memo to the rest of the world and say, look, we love you guys. And I know this is easier said than done. This is pie in the sky, but that thinking needs to be, I think, is what we need. We need, and I know that the world doesn't work that way anymore. It's so interconnected, and we're so, you can't help but become one world society again. So I think what you're seeing is the beginning in the state. You're seeing what happens when a global economy that's so connected clashes with a cultural system that's decades, centuries old, that's not ready to come together as fast as the technology and the monetary and the global economy. Supply chain doesn't understand that there are massive groups of people that still don't like massive groups of people and will never like massive groups of people because of their skin color. And people still don't understand that Americans want to drive in their own car for 8 hours down a freeway rather than sitting on a train. We don't want that in America. And rather than push that on Americans, we should just keep embracing what Americans like, which is I want my own big, fat, ugly, nasty, gas-guzzling SUV, and I'll pay the emissions tax on it because I want my family to look cool by themselves in privacy. I don't want to get on a freaking train. And I've ridden trains. I rode trains with you. Beautiful, awesome experience. But at the end of the day, maybe it's the way I was raised and grew up. I can't wait to get in my own car. Just like you can't wait to take a crap in your own you-know-what and sleep in your own bed.
So, all right. So we talked.
I feel like I haven't talked to you in a long time.
It's been a while, man. You were dumping just now. That was good.
But here's the thing.
Pun intended.
The annoying thing is, like I said, we use this noble cause to continue to waste our time.
Absolutely. So let's transition with that, because the other noble cause in distractions and using military might is what's going on in DC. So when you look at the idea of DC and the vast amounts of crime that was around, at least according to the rationale, we need to bring in the National Guards. Now, National Guards come in. My son even went to DC a few weeks ago, and he said, you know what? DC definitely looks different. He was there for college. He left to go to New York and came back after 2 years. And he said, things did seem a lot quieter there. Now, you had all of a sudden, you have this guy from Afghanistan. He shoots 2 National Guards. One's name is Sarah Backstrom, and the other one was Andrew Wolf. Sarah, only 20 years old, ends up getting killed. And right now, Andrew
passed away.
Yeah. And Andrew's fighting for his life right now, man. So first of all, my heart goes out to the family of both of the victims. And it's just a shame that you can have people wake up one morning. It's the day before Thanksgiving. They're not even 25 years old. They have a full life ahead of them. The idea of maybe getting married, having kids, contributing to our country and to the world at large. And it's cut short just like that for the random act of someone who wants to take action like that. What are your thoughts around that whole thing? Because I think there's a number of layers of conversation and debate we can have, but first wanted to acknowledge the reality that two lives were forever changed and one life was stolen.
Look, it's a sensitive subject no matter how you bring it up. And my heart goes out to those people because they gave their life. They gave their sacrifice. They gave this ultimate sacrifice. And when you go into civil service like that, law enforcement service, National Guard, military service, you know ultimately, right? You sign that contract and ultimately. But that's also a big reason why a lot of people, I think, serve, because they know, that's the biggest thing you could do. So having said that and knowing that happened, you actually have to process what's happening with that, because while it is sad and it is a tragedy, I know it could be a cold way to look at it. They died doing what they love to do, which was serving, right? And it's not a way to justify it at all. It isn't. Because if it was my son or daughter that was killed like that serving, I would be grief stricken. I would be very heartbroken. I don't know what my reaction would be. I mean, I don't. I can't tell you what, honestly, I could tell you what I think my reaction would be, but I can't tell you because I don't know how I would emotionally react. So having said that, it's a tragedy. I think it is. The bigger tragedy is that they had to become martyrs to highlight what I think is a bigger issue in America is that we have allowed the general consensus in America to shift to that we are not a country of law, and that you could just do whatever you want here and get away with it. There's no respect for civil authority here in America anymore, I don't think. And I think that's the bigger issue, is that we've allowed America to go into this direction in order for the guys and under the operational agency of appeasing people and not hurting their feelings and not disenfranchising them. Let's use the proper Harvard word so that we can alienate all the population because we sound so smart. So therefore, because we sound so smart and we speak so eloquently, we're qualified to think better than you and lead you. That's the political stance that these leaders have taken over the last 30, 40 years that have gotten us in this direction where people just go, fuck it, it's America. You can do whatever you want here. It doesn't matter anymore. So then you get someone like this guy who was brought here under an amnesty asylum program from Afghanistan during the collapsed Biden massacre exit from Afghanistan that he oversaw as an executive, whether it was his administration that started it or came into it, he finished it and he was the executive charged, collapsed it, allowed all these guys to come over to seek asylum, and now these guys are killing people. And not just killing people, they're killing authority figures in America that were brought there to keep people like you and I safe because, yes, D.C., like many other great American cities, does have a crisis, a crime crisis, and a security crisis. Dearborn, Michigan, everybody ought to look into that. I encourage every red-blooded American to look into see what's going on in Dearborn, Michigan right now. Because the attack on America doesn't come from the outside, it comes from the inside. This is a deliberate attack. This isn't an attack. And it further underscores that the rule of law is not respected inside the interior of the United States anymore. Yes, they do need to be there. And I'll give you an example, Len, and I'll come back at you with it. I was just in New Orleans with my whole family. National Guard was there. My children saw National Guard. I have pictures and videos of my children. Can I go shake their hands? Can I go see the soldiers? Can I go say thank you to them? I've never in my life seen a soldier on America's street with an M4. Only in foreign countries. We're to that point now in America because the types of people that have been allowed in this country and are now infiltrating in this country don't respect the normal civil rule of law. It's a police officer. You got to respect that. And then we've also had these same political people that say that they want to keep cities safe. They've neutered their police departments and not allowed them to do what they need to do because either they don't have the resources to do it and the backing to do it, or they're so afraid to do their job because they're afraid to get thrown in jail, or they're afraid to get prosecuted for being harsh with somebody. And I know there's right and there's wrong, but I never felt safer walking down the streets of my family because on every corner there was National Guard. And it was weird. Now, they were there, but they were not front and center. They were tucked back, like 100 feet, 150 feet off the street, but they were there. I've never seen that before, but it felt safe and there was no weirdness and nobody got out of line. Maybe that's what it takes right now for people to realize and understand that we're like you said, we want safe neighborhoods, no drugs, no pedophilia, no riffraff, nothing. But unfortunately, we've gotten to a point right now in America where I think it's necessary, and there are going to be tragedies like this. I don't think it's a tragedy where we're trying to solve a noble cause. It's not, because those guys aren't there actively being violent. They're there to actively enforce the law. They're there to actively protect the people who are just there to bring in a net value to the country. So, however, it's a tough situation no matter where you slice it because you're performing surgery on someone who just got shot and you need to save them. and it's a delicate surgery because you got to go around here and you're going to nick an artery regardless. You know what I mean? It's like cancer treatment. You got to kill to. It's like I feel like that's the situation. Yeah, it's triage. Yeah, thank you, Len. Like, yeah, it's just. So, but I feel both sides of it. But I'm like, to me, I can't say Here's why I can't argue it. I guess maybe I can't argue the way it's being done right now because I can't present a pragmatic, intellectual, effective strategy that's better than the one that's being implemented right now, unfortunately.
Okay. Well, I'll try to give you some food for thought. That was a perfect handoff. So, not that you agree.
You respect that, Len, to your level.
I respect it.
Acumen.
I respect it. I respect it. I don't know if you'll agree or not, but here's my pushback on what you have to say. So, I think when you look at a person like Trump and his background in both business and in media, what he has learned is the power of story and of narrative. Story and narrative moves the needle. If you go and you take a look at news agencies that want to push a particular agenda, for example, we need to have more, we need to be tougher on crime. What they'll do is they'll present real statistics that highlight all of the carnage that happens, all of the murders that take place, and all of the unnecessary death that happens. And all of that's real. When you look at the actual crime rates in Washington, D.C., I would recommend you go take a look at it. The crime rates are actually down. Now, when I say that, I'm not suggesting that because they're down, that means that it's non-existent. Crime is a problem in DC, has been, and it probably will be in the foreseeable future. When you use the narrative that because of the rampant crime that's happening, we have to get the National Guard, people are going to be less resistant to that idea, especially if they're not there because they're listening to a story. They wouldn't necessarily know that crime is actually down. And so when you bring the National Guard, what that does in certain communities, that raises the tension and raises the temperature because the rhetoric has been raised. And so when I go in a city in the United States, I'm not accustomed to seeing people with M4s and, M16s and automatic rifles. I was when I was in other countries. I didn't feel safe. I felt that there was a real threat, and I was relieved they were there because I felt, okay, the presence of them might deter some type of other activity. But then in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, wait, why would they need to be here? You were with me when we were in Spain and went to El Clasico. Remember those big armored tanks outside and the guys standing with those big guns? It made me think, okay, man, we better, because one of the people that was with us when we went, because we were in Madrid and he was talking about wearing the Barcelona shirt. Right. And we're like, no, you can't do that. You can't do that here. Because remember, the guy was explaining to us, a guy walked in the wrong city and he got stabbed because he had the wrong shirt on because he was, celebrating the victory of his team. When I see armed guards and big, gigantic, like military style vehicles, my safety doesn't, my antennas go up and my head becomes on a swivel because I want to see if something's going to pop off. So that's not something that I want in America. That doesn't make me feel safer. And I think, when you go back to this particular story in DC, I'm not here to say that it's failed policy and that's the reason why those two people were shot. On a larger level, I don't like the idea because the Army, Air Force, Navy, Marines, National Guard, they're there to protect its citizens, both from foreign and domestic types of of concerns, but they're not. The police are created to take care of what's going on inside of our city walls. Military's job isn't for that. Now, if there's a riot, if there's some type of insurrection, absolutely in those instances. But just for the everyday presence of having an armed guard there, an armed person of the military, I don't like that idea at all. And I'll wrap up with this, which is when you look at the need to protect our citizens, you should not use fake statistics and data to justify something you want to do, because crime wasn't going up in DC. It was down. And it's just unfortunate that those two people were killed, because what I don't want to get into the argument of saying, okay, well, if the National Guard weren't there, then those two people wouldn't have been killed, which is true. But that doesn't mean that person wouldn't have gone and shot a police officer.
Somebody else.
So I don't want to create a false equivalence. But it just brings into bear just the whole idea of having people in military personnel guarding our streets. I just don't like it.
Yeah, and I'm also the same. And I know we talked about these. I think we talked about crime statistics a few months ago or a couple episodes ago. And there are different ways to skew those numbers to make them favorable in our direction. The general consensus still, I believe, and what we see is that things are pretty weird. You see it. You see an increase in activities of people getting kidnapped, raped, murdered, truck accidents, all different stuff. I mean, it's 17,000 driver's licenses revoked that were supposed to be given to CDL drivers out of California. You're seeing the same problem systemically happen in Pennsylvania. So you're seeing these consistencies throughout the system where we were just free-for-alling and stuff. And it was like, all right, cool, here, go, 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 go. So I don't want that military. I don't think you should. In fact, that's what makes, again, America so special, was that you never saw that in America. You go to foreign countries and you see that, but you don't. But I think we've got to the point right now where people there is absolutely no respect for the rule of law or life, a lot of human life at this point too. And that's just, it's a very sad thing. It's a very, very sad thing. But to sound like you wanted.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
But I was going to say, again, I don't know. I don't know any other way to do it other than to just kind of put the message out there and say, hey, the party's over, dude. The party's over. I mean, that's really all there is to it. Because if the National Guard wasn't there, yeah, something could have happened. But and the reality is, the point is still, I think the bigger point still is the fact that somebody had the gall to do that. Someone thought that they were going to be okay to do that it's okay to do that.
Yeah,
that's the biggest problem. Like, it's why? Who thinks it's okay to do that? Why? And why would you think it's okay to do that? And how do we allow someone? The thing is like, how do we allow someone like that who wasn't even here to begin with to do that here? We could have stopped it in 2021, but we allowed them here. So that's kind of where we're like, again, the self-inflicted stuff where it's like, we wouldn't need the National Guard there on the streets if we hadn't done X, Y, Z. And again, we can't go back and change the past, but that's my biggest conundrum with it, Len, is like, I don't know any other way to clear these kinds of people off the streets.
But it's not a problem that is new. And I'm not suggesting that it's okay not to do anything. What I am suggesting is that it's not okay to take disproportionate action. Like, I'll give you an extreme example. So imagine we tally up all the deaths and we go back 30, 40, 50 years. Yep. You'll see in the 80s and the 90s, crime was really high. And then after the 90s into the 2000s, crime started to creep down. And then, in the 2000s to, 2010s, it crept back up and it's been on a downward trajectory. But all of those numbers are still high. So my point is that, crime statistics, they ebb and flow depending upon the city, depending upon, what's going on, depending upon, the flow of drugs in different places and the rise of gangs and violence like that, mob activity. There's all different types of crimes depending upon, where you are in the country. So let's say we decided, you know what? We want to justify having surveillance cameras on every corner. We want to justify having, and anytime we walk into the public, we have to make sure that we have all of our fingerprints that are in the Federal Bureau of Investigation. We have our eye prints, and every time we do any type of transaction, we have to go through this device where we put our fingers there, we put our eye scanners on that, just because we have to get rid of crime. And so it's going to keep us all safe. It's going to allow us to, our wives to walk down the streets with their children, and the world will be a whole lot safer. Well, okay. The truth is the world would be safer, but when you have, at what price? You lose your freedom. You lose your ability to be able to go and come as you please. You lose that level of flexibility for the sake of solving crime. That using that same argument, why don't you just take everybody's guns away? Because if you took everybody's guns away, we'd be safer. And so, it's very easy to create a narrative to make people acquiesce, but in that process of acquiescence, we give up our rights and our freedoms, and rights and freedoms do come with the price. I just don't like the direction where the country's going, man. I don't at all.
I don't think the scary, and here's where you and I are going to diverge a little bit. I don't think that what you see now is the scary stuff. I think that's the in your face stuff that makes people think of what you're thinking of that was actually happening covertly during COVID. So the stuff that you're afraid of and the stuff you're talking of, you and I are both on the same page. NSA, surveillance, look, we've talked about this before. This here, if you have one of these, everyone knows, they know everything about you. If you have a smartphone, game over already. So stop privacy stuff as it is. All right. That doesn't exist anymore. That world is gone. But the stuff you speak about, the surveillance state, the authority state that you see, this guy, I just read this story. This UK man was on holiday. He was on vacation in Florida, and he took a picture of him firing a shotgun in Florida and posted it on his social media. The police arrested him and seized his computers and his stuff in the UK for months because they thought he had a gun. And posting stuff on that incites violence. That stuff you're talking about, that stuff, that's very anti-American. We know this. We can go back. Privacy is the biggest thing that America has over everybody. So I agree with you. But the stuff we see today that you could say would cause concern of that makes people think that kind of stuff that you're saying is going to happen. But in reality, it was happening during COVID. Because we won't give up our rights quietly, we won't give up our rights loud with a fight like that. We will voluntarily give them away under the guise of some type of technology or some type of betterment of our lives or safety. We will voluntarily do it. It won't happen the way most people think, revolution. That's not going to happen. The powers that be have learned that way too many times. That doesn't work. We don't want it. We don't want that. Nobody wants that. You can't have that anymore. People don't. I think, honestly, Len, to transition it, I think the biggest thing, with the murders and all this stuff, getting back to crime and stuff and atrocities of the world that happen, because we could talk all day long about all the atrocities that are happening. I mean, we could talk about human trafficking, we could talk about pedophilia, we could talk about prescription over drug gangs, everything.
Yep. Right?
Prostitution. At the end of the day, social media and the internet has just made it more visible. So now we just see more of the atrocities that have been going on because there's nothing new under the sun. What's interesting to me right now is the flip-flop back and forth with Candace Owens, and now with the death threats, and Marcone's want him dead, her dead, and
allegedly,
you got people saying she's crashed out now. But then at the same time, and we've talked about this, there's just too many weird things with Erica Kirk and TPUSA and her history going back to Miss USA, the orphanages in Romania. It's almost seems like she was a plant and Kirk was a mark. I don't want to start conspiracies or talk that, but it's just too ugly. And now you've got her, and she's gonna
Erica or her Candace.
No, Candace. Now you got Candace gotcha. With the craziness here. Where are you at with this stuff, man? She had to take a week off or something like that. Like she couldn't do something for a week because it was just what. Where are you at with this stuff?
Yeah, so she sent out a social media post saying that she's going to take time off because of a confirmed death threat. And the White House reached out to her and said, hey, there's some concerns that we have about your life, and you should probably lay low for a little while. So there's some interesting information out there. So there's a guy by the name of Ham Braverman of New Jersey, and he posted a video holding a steel bat, and he was threatening to kill this political commentator. And then Candace went out and said, you know what? I'm that political commentator. Then you have the Macrons that, allegedly put a hit out on her life and all of these things. I just think when you look at the clash and the conflict that people have because of social media and our different platforms we can use to voice our beliefs, our values, our assumptions, our opinions. I think sometimes when that voice becomes too powerful or too widespread and they say something that they know could influence that tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and potentially millions of people, oftentimes those are the voices that get silenced. And I think that's a real problem. Unfortunately, just like we talked about with crime, that's not anything old, and that's always going to be something that exists as long as we have this thing called human nature. And so, even, depending upon what type of platform you have and what kinds of conversations you have, the bigger you get, the more exposure you get. And there's always going to be people who disagree with what you say, regardless of the position you take. You could take the complete opposite position that you present to the world, and you'll have another group of people mad at you. And so, to me, I think she needs to be very, very, very careful about what she says and what she does. But regardless of the issues that I've had and that I've expressed about her, some of her views, I applaud her for taking a principled stand. And she's saying, look, Charlie was my friend, and I'm going to continue to push the envelope until we find the truth. I respect that. I respect that in a big way, because there's so many people, once they are put in a compromising position or threatened to be compromised, then they back off. And so I respect the stance she's taking here. And I hope that she's going to be safe, because we need voices on every side of the aisle, and we need people that search for truth. And like I've said many times before, and I'll say many times again, each side of the aisle will agree with some positions I take and disagree with some positions I take, because I don't take a party stance. I'm searching for truth, and that's it. And that's, in this case, that's what she's doing. And I respect that she's doing that. And I hope that she's safe, and I hope she ultimately gets to the bottom of what it is that she's looking for.
Yeah, it almost kind of makes me think that number one, I mean, kudos to her. She's got some,
Yeah.
Because she doesn't have, she probably has private security, but she doesn't have like a wherewithal to have like a security detail like Elon Musk has, I mean, or a presidential security, or even a congressional security detail is probably, is pretty beefy. I don't know. I mean,
she's probably got a couple of security guards here and there, but
still, dude, if your
government wants you taken out, they can take you out.
Bro, if they want you, they want you. So yeah, I mean that. But does it make it seem like regardless of what she says or how she says it, whether it's proven or not, and truth and all that stuff and getting to the bottom of it, is it a 50-50 split between people who just look at it and go, oh, it's automatically a conspiracy theory, or the other versus the other people that go, nah, you know what I mean? And you're either in one of those camps, and you're either going to go down either side of it until one side is proven. The challenge I have with it is that if something is an accusation, if something is accused, you accuse somebody or something of that. Number one, you have to have evidence, right? And she has evidence, right? And she's making accusations with evidence. And then at that point, the defending party, has to say, well, I don't have to do anything because I haven't done anything wrong. Really, mind your damn business, right? In this case, mind your business. Like, whose business? What business?
So, I want to make sure I'm understanding what you're saying. Are you saying the accusations of the alleged party that wants her dead? Is that what you're talking about?
Well, whatever accusations she makes in general, whether Brigitte is a man or a woman, that's one of her biggest things. Whether Charles was really assassinated by Tyler Robinson, or it was an Israeli asset. Name anything.
So you're speaking in general. Okay, gotcha. I'm with you
like,
now.
for example, if I accused you of something, you could say, you're crazy, Chris, go away, right? I don't have to answer you. I'm not hurting anybody until something else comes and accuses you, right? Or you could reply back immediately and clear your name and show the receipts. So the challenge I have is that if you have the receipts, why don't you just put this crap to bed so early and just put the receipts out there to the people who are accused?
Yeah, and in that instance, I think it could totally go away. What do you think it would take tomorrow? With what? Hey, if Erica comes on and says, you know what, I'm going to be on your show. We're going to sit down. We're going to have a 2, 3, 4 hour conversation. We're going to go through this because I want the same thing as you. I want to find out what happened to my husband. It'd go away tomorrow.
Why doesn't that happen? So see, that's the problem people have. That's what creates the issue for the other side, that it says it's a conspiracy. And whether or not the people that on the other side say it's a conspiracy are only 30% of the total whole or 40%, at this point in the world, the problem that we're having now is that too many people don't believe the facts that are being given anymore. And because the facts there's too much reasonable doubt within the facts now. So that means we just need to sprinkle a little bit more of the receipts in the world today.
Exactly.
They show the facts are 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 the facts. Just like, and I know this irritates a lot of people on the extreme left, a man is a man and a woman is a woman. And a man can't have a child. Sorry, it doesn't work that way. It never will. It never has. It can't. Unless you figure out how to take the role of God or whatever, or you become a wizard and you can take a shot that changes your sex overnight or brings you back. It just doesn't work.
Correct.
And even if you could figure it out, I guarantee you, because I say it all the time, at the back door of it, guess what there is? Something that we don't know about because we think we're so smart that's going to go, error, that doesn't work. And then we end up seeing a problem that we've never, ever seen because we're not supposed to do that. Right? You get what I'm saying,
exactly.
Right?
It's like the Tower of Babel. Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Say that again.
I said it's just like the Tower of Babel. In the Bible, where
explain that.
Yeah, so they were building a building, and the goal was to build that building all the way up to heaven. And so God was like, we're not doing that. I'm paraphrasing, obviously. And that's really where all of the different languages emerged because, he struck down the building collapses, and people, started speaking in different tongues, and it scattered, those people scattered around the world. So, when we start trying to mess around and become God or to try to get on the same level as God, I believe that God said there shall be no other God before me. And, we can talk about AI in another episode and how, people are trying to replace God with that. But getting back to this whole Erica and Candace Owens situation, there's so many different pieces of evidence that she's produced, video evidence, and she's also produced text receipts. Like all of the things that she's putting out there, she's putting receipts on it. And so, and the issue is like this, there's another, there's more people that were part of the CIA. They're saying that guy who they're alleging that shot Charlie Kirk, there's so many inconsistencies. So in one shot, he has a black backpack, and another shot, he has a blue backpack. He has 3 or 4 different wardrobe changes. You have this the type of the rifle that he had. How could you transport and walk around with that on your person? And then 2 different pictures. There's 2 guys that have, a similar build, maybe similar height, but you can look at their face and they don't look like the same person. There's all of these challenges and problems and inconsistencies from the head of security doing all of this stuff and, pressing the Ray-Ban glasses, and you see a light twinkle, and then there's a shot that gets fired. He bends over. It looks like he moves something from the table. The other guy comes and removes the camera from the back of the table. It's just, and then he gets on his phone right when the shot happens. Like, all of these challenges and issues that we can see with our own eyes, they're not being answered. And so because of that, it raises all of these concerns. And so I think that there is some legitimacy to something bigger happening, which is why her life is on the line, in my opinion.
Because you wouldn't threaten somebody like that unless there was. And here's the thing, the reality behind it all, right? There's a natural instinct, right? Humans have natural instincts that we're born with. When something's, you just go, but you're just,
that's right.
It's just weird. It's just weird. So, I mean, here's the thing that most people will never really ever going to know. We're not. And you're right. There's too many inconsistencies. There's too many weird things out there. And we'll see. Time will tell. I pray for her, and I hope that everything works out for her. But I think what's bigger here today, right now, for a lot of people too, is that because the mob rules, right? And that's what people mostly, because no one's asking what's going on with the Charlie Kirk investigation. No one's asking. Remember when O.J. Simpson was on trial? That crap was on TV everywhere, baby boy. Like, that stuff was everywhere.
Trial of the century.
Why is nobody questioning this? It's just going to be one of those, he was found guilty and it's done with. Oh, God. And that's it. So, I mean,
I don't think that's going to happen, though. I think because
it looks that way. When's the last time it's been in the news? When's the last time you've seen anything about it in the news?
I would say it's not in mainstream media, but I would say on more independent outlets, there's still a lot of people questioning the legitimacy of all of the facts. And so I think if you go down the rabbit hole, you'll see it. I would agree. It's not
mainstream.
That's right. And I think that's going to be the death of mainstream media. The fact that there are stories out there that people care about, that people want to know more about, but because the news cycle moves so quickly, they move on. And I think the ability to be able to turn to a channel or a podcast or a media outlet that feeds you the information you're interested in, that's going to become the death of mainstream media. I give it 15 to 25 years. I think there'll be
they know it. You know why? They know it. You know why? Because if you look at the top 10 podcasts across all different types of platforms, they're mostly all mystery and crime dramas. All of them. I think the number 1, number 2 podcast is I can't remember the name of it. I don't want to plug it, but it's a crime podcast. It is. It's very popular. I listen to it all the time. And it was introduced to me by a friend of mine.
And so with that being said, Chris, it's always a pleasure having a conversation with you. And those of you out there that are watching this, please feel free to comment, like, subscribe, and tell somebody else about it so we can engage in public discourse, regardless of the side of the aisle you rest on. Take care, everybody.
Len, have an awesome week, sir.
You too, brother.
Conversation has given you clarity on your next steps. Please share this episode with someone who's walking the same path. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss future episodes. And remember, planning ahead isn't just prudent, it's an act of care. Thanks for joining us. And we'll see you next time on The Family Office.